वेदांत स्वामी नित्य नामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे यस so we are discussing about the descriptions of the absolute truth. Okay, now one thing we have to understand, that what we are discussing here, this may seem like some hard philosophy, very dark, very dry philosophy, but that's not the case. Because our movement, our philosophy is bhakti. We have discussed, right in the beginning of this description, we discussed Prema Pumartho Mahan. You know, Aradhyo Bhagwan Vrajesha Tanaya Tatham Vrindavan. Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajvadhu Vargena Ya Kalpita. श्रीमद् भागवतम प्रमाणममलम प्रेम पुमार्थो महान श्रीमद् भागवतम प्रमाणममलम तत्रादर श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभोर मतमिदम तत्रादर न पर. So see, we are trying to understand the love of Godhead. So before we jump into that topic, we need to understand some preliminaries, like we discussed previously also when we were studying the Bhagavad Gita. Before we can love Krishna, before we can understand the love of Radha and Krishna, we have to understand who they are. We have to learn to respect them. Now, in this Maya, we have forgotten completely. And any conception we have of Radha and Krishna is also a materialistic conception based on our senses. So we consider Radha and Krishna to be like ourselves. They are like ourselves, but not in the way we think. They are not like our body, they are like our soul, or they are like us, really. But we don't know who we are. So we are trying to understand that. So if we can, go through this, then we can really understand who is Krishna. Then we can really understand what Krishna means to us. So therefore, please bear with this for a while. This is like a slightly technical understanding, but once you have pulled through this one, you will have a very clear understanding of Krishna. So, and because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was never here to give dry logic, Mahaprabhu defeated the dry logicians to establish prema or love of Godhead as the highest principle, prema pumartho mahan. But to establish that principle, he established the foundations first. So we are discussing that foundational knowledge. This is not jnana. This is not some dry, speculative, argumentative knowledge. So, so first stage of understanding Krishna is purification. Purification of our intellect, purification of our consciousness. So the Vedas inform us that from him, Brahman, everything emanates, and on him everything rests. And after annihilation, everything merges in him only. Therefore, he is the ultimate dative, causative, and accommodating cause of all causes. And all these causes cannot be attributed to an impersonal object. So you see, here we have established Krishna. So if you go, for example, to Kashi or places like Nasik or say South India, especially this Kamakoti Pitham, you'll see a lot of people who have very dry logic. What is Brahman? Brahman Satya Jagan Mithya. Everything is myth, Oh, you love your father, mother, your husband, wife, child. All that is myth. That is all nonsense. You are just Brahma, Shuddha Brahma. You are nothing. You are just Brahma. You are a part of that universal whole. That's impersonal philosophy. That's very dry. That doesn't nourish the heart. So eventually it dries us up and we become renunciates. That was not Mahaprabhu's aim. So in the very beginning, before he starts the Vedanta philosophy, Mahaprabhu is establishing Krishna as the personality. And all these causes cannot be attributed to an impersonal object. So for example, if you go to your house, you see a television, you see a chair, you see a table, you see a cup, a plate. Whom do they belong to? Either to you or to your father. They belong to someone. You can't just say they are just manifested. Oh, this table was made in a workshop. This cup was manufactured in a factory. It has just come. No, somebody brought it. Even in the factory, someone made it. Someone paid for it, someone brought it, and now it is here. It's either you, it could be your father, your mother, your wife, your husband, some person. So, origin of any object has to be some personality. So, the origin of all origins also has to be a personality. The Vedas inform us that he alone became many, and when he so desires, he glances over material nature. Before he glanced over material nature, there was no material cosmic creation. Therefore, his glance is not material. Material mind or senses were unborn when the Lord glanced over material nature. Thus, evidence in the Vedas proves that beyond a doubt, the Lord has transcendental eyes and a transcendental mind. They are not material. His impersonality, therefore, is a negation of his materiality, but not a denial of his transcendental personality. Brahman Satya Jagan Mithya. Yes, Jagan is Mithya. The material nature with all its formations is a Mithya because of its false manifestation. No relationship in this material world is permanent. So it can be considered a sort of myth. It is not a, it is not a, it's not an illusion. It is a reality, a temporary reality. So the Lord created this temporary reality because the living entities wanted to play in it. The desire of the living entity was to enjoy this world, so Krishna created it. So this is just created here, just like a father, sometimes he buys a toy for the child. Now, for the child, that is very real. When when a child is playing with a Hot Wheels or something, he thinks it's a real car. He does not think it's a toy, though everyone can see that this is just a toy. But for child, it is very real. But when the child grows up, then he realizes it's just a toy and he moves on to bigger things. So when the living entity matures in spiritual consciousness, he understands this material world is just like a playground. He searches after reality, athato brahma jigyasa, and then he finds the supreme personality of Godhead, the real object of his relationship, his love and affection. And that is transcendental personality. So because the Lord is so magnificent, his hand cannot be seen behind all these activities. Therefore, one may mistakenly think that Lord is not a person. But when the child grows up, he can see the position of his father. So likewise, when the soul grows in spiritual knowledge, he can see the position of the Lord behind everything. Brahman ultimately refers to the personality of Godhead. Impersonal Brahman realization is just the negative conception of the mundane creations. Param Atma is the localized aspect of Brahman within all kinds of material bodies. Ultimately, the supreme Brahman realization is the realization of the personality of Godhead according to all evidence of the revealed scriptures. He is the ultimate source of Vishnu Tattvas. So, you see, as the soul becomes more and more mature in spiritual understanding, he can start seeing more and more the manifestation of God, which essentially means that eventually he realizes the love of Godhead. Because to know God makes no sense at all. I mean, we know there is a prime minister, there is a president, there is a chief minister, but we don't love them. But when we realize, oh, my father sacrificed so much for me, he paid my fees, he paid for my clothing, he paid for my food, he took care of me, then the child understands, oh, this is my father. Then that affection becomes very deep. So when we try to understand the Lord through the scriptures, then we understand his greatness. Then the affection we feel for the Lord is filled with a deep sense of attachment, a deep sense of gratitude for the Lord. That, oh my dear, oh my God, everything I had belonged to him only. But he so mercifully allowed me to enjoy everything in this world, even when I was denying his existence. Now imagine a child comes home and he says, actually, I just found out that I don't have a father. You just provide me something, but actually, you are not my father. I don't have any father. I was just born out of some biological process. So, what will the father feel? But the father will still say, okay, this is a child, foolish. It's okay. He has no conception. But I'll still support him. But when the child grows up, he realizes how foolish he was. So then he becomes very grateful to father that he tolerated everything. He did not neglect him. So just like that, when we understand the greatness of Lord, then the affection we feel for him has a depth. Otherwise, it's just a mental misconception. Today I like Krishna, tomorrow I like Buddha, then I don't like anything. Actually, no, nothing exists. Nothing is real. So you see, in order to love the Lord perfectly, we have to understand who he is.
Hmm.
And Lord is very merciful. He first manifests only as Brahman, because we have completely forgotten him. If he suddenly appears in front of us, it will be a shock. So he manifests very impersonally. Okay, Brahman, great energy. But when this inquisitiveness to know the Lord deepens, then we can understand that there is a reflection within our heart of some personality. And when we meditate deeply, that reflection reveals itself as Paramatma, the Supreme. But that is only a reflection. So when we become even more inquisitive, more curious to know, and we meditate even more deeply, then we can see the person to whom this reflection belonged. The person who's behind this reflection, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one can never know the Supreme Person without loving him, or one can never love without knowing him. So as soon as you know the Lord, you naturally feel affection for him. So imagine this. I mean, this is like I'm quoting a bit out of Shastra here. In this world, what do you call love? Something you experience from your mother, your father, your grandmother, grandfather, your wife, your husband, your daughter, your son,
Hmm.
your brother, your sister. That is love. Or, in a more extreme case, the love you experience from your lover, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. That is love. That love is a very, very small fraction of the love of Godhead. Actually, all the love combined in this world is a tiny fraction of what love of God is really is. So when you see God face to face, all that love is completely manifest. And that's why you see the great personalities, they are always overwhelmed with the love of God. For example, we are going to see the story of Madhavendra Puri. Oh, we saw the story of Madhavendra Puri. Yeah. Madhavendra Puri was the spiritual master of the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Hmm.
And Madhavendra Puri, Srila Madhavendra Puri, could not think of anything except Krishna. His eyes were always streaming tears of love. So much so that he wouldn't even meet anyone. He would always hide in forests, just thinking of Krishna all the time. So that is the extent to which the love of God is manifest. And that is the extent to which the Lord feels grateful for this love that he manifested as a disciple of the disciple of Srila Madhavendra Puri. So the Lord himself accepted his own devotee as his spiritual master. So this is what we are trying to understand through the study of Lord Chaitanya. Okay. The Puranas are also supplementary to the Vedas. The Vedic mantras are too difficult for an ordinary man. Women, Shudras, and the so called twice born higher castes are unable to penetrate into the sense of Vedas, and thus the Itihas or Mahabharata, as well as the Puranas, are made easy to explain the truths of the Vedas. In his prayers before the boy Sri Krishna, Brahma said that there is no limit to the fortune of the residents of Rajabhumi, headed by Sri Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, because the eternal absolute truth has become their intimate relative. So you see, now this is a point sometimes, we are accused by normal people, ordinary people, that we are some kind of racist or casteist or, what you call that, masculinist or something, chauvinistic, that we are excluding women and Shudras. Yepishu Papa Yonaya, Bhagavad Gita, we read that. But that's not the case. Kalau Shudra Sambhava, in this age of Kali, everyone has Alpa Buddhi, very limited intelligence. Our intelligence is good enough only to make some engines or some computers or solve some mathematical problems. It is not big enough to understand the absolute truth, which is not just an intellectual understanding, but it is understood through one's emotions. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam, Krishna is saying, whatever feeling one carries. So bhakti is not about knowing, it's about feeling. So, so whoever quits this body thinking of me, Krishna says, you know, अंतकाले च माम एवा स्मरन मुक्त्वा कलेवरम यह प्रयाति समत भाव यातनास्त्यत्र संशय. Whoever quits this body thinking of me attains to my nature. So to think of Krishna, we have to feel for Krishna. So therefore, we are trying to establish a whole framework with which you will permanently understand Krishna. Then you will not be hovering on the mental platform. That today I like Krishna, tomorrow I don't. No, with this you will understand that actually the only object worth liking in this world is Krishna, because everything is emanating from him. Mattah sarvam pravartate. So whatever you think you like in this world, you are just liking a fragment of Krishna. So how much more you will like when you actually see Krishna face to face. So this Mahabharat, Ramayana, this kind of itihasas, they are written to explain the nature of the Lord, to explain the feeling of the Lord. Therefore, Lord Brahma is also praying to the residents of Braj that they are so fortunate that great sages are sitting in different planets and they are meditating for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years just to get a glimpse of the Lord. But the residents of Braj, they are just sitting there. They're nothing. What are they? They're cowherd people. If you see in India, especially if you have been to northern India, lots of this, you see a lot of cowherds, this western UP belt, full of cowherds. And they're not very educated. In fact, they're the lowest amongst the Vaishyas. In the Varna system, Vaishyas are lower than Kshatriyas and Brahmanas. And the lowest end of Vaishyas are the cowherds. They're just into animal husbandry. So what is their position in terms of intellectual abilities or culture or refinement? But Krishna accepts them as the supreme. Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajavadhu Varagena Ya Kalpita. So this is something. Who are Vrajavadhus? The gopis. So if you see, what Krishna describes the beauty of gopis as immeasurable. But what is the beauty of a cowherd girl? All day they're in mud and earth and cow dung. They are tending to cows, taking out milk and cleaning the homes and other things. Their body is covered with dust because of constant exposure to sun. Their skin is sunburnt. They don't have any time for makeup or dressing or anything. You can't wear fine clothes when you're dealing with cows. If you have seen cows, you'll know. What would be their beauty? But why does Krishna consider them to be the greatest of all beauties? It's the beauty within their heart. Ramya Kachid Upasana Vrajavadhu Varagena Ya Kalpita. They are the highest of yogis. They are the most beautiful in the whole creation, spiritual and material. So what is that beauty? It's the love of their heart. Mahaprabhu is worshipping in that mood. So we have to understand, this is the mood, the simplicity. What is the intellectual ability of a cowherd girl? In the ancient Vedic culture, girls were not sent to schools or gurukuls. They just studied at home. Their mother would teach them some household affairs. That was the only thing they learned. What would they really know? So how is it? What is their great fortune that the supreme personality of Godhead, the supreme absolute truth, the Parabrahman, is worshipping them? The gopis, when they are angry, Krishna is trying to pacify them. When the gopis are unhappy, Krishna is trying to please them. Whatever they say, Krishna is ready to do. Why is that? Because that is the highest qualification a living entity can attain. The topmost worship is the worship of the gopis. So, in this study of Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, we learn how to aspire for that devotion. But because we are in this so much material conception, we have to learn it scientifically. It's glamorous to see a man flying an aeroplane. But if you want to design an aeroplane, you have to go through the rigor of so many studies. So it's glamorous to see gopis worshipping Krishna. But if we want that position ourselves, then we have to go through some austerities. That's why we're studying these scriptures. The Vedic mantra maintains that the absolute truth has no legs and no hands, and yet goes faster than all and accepts everything that is offered to him in devotion. The latter statements definitely suggest the personal features of the Lord. His hands and legs are distinguished from mundane hands and legs or other senses. So you see that this verse in Bhagavatam, Sarvata Panipadam, that everywhere are his hands and his eyes and ears, and he hears everything, he walks everywhere. So that means that Lord is conscious of everything. It's just a figure of speech. It doesn't mean that Lord is not a person or that he doesn't exist and we are just worshipping some energy cloud. No, it's a very great personality. Brahman is therefore never impersonal, but when such mantras are indirectly interpreted, it is wrongly thought that the absolute truth is impersonal. The absolute personality of Godhead is full of all opulences, and therefore he has a transcendental form of full existence, knowledge, and bliss. How then can one establish that the absolute truth is impersonal? Brahman, being full of opulences, is understood to have manifold energy, and all these energies are classified under three headings under the authority of Vishnu Purana, which says that the transcendental energies of Lord Vishnu are primarily three. His spiritual energy, as well as the energy of the living entities, are classified as superior energy, whereas the material energy is an inferior one which is sprouted out of ignorance. So you see, this is a reassurance that the living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna. Mameva ansha jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana. So, yes, so we are part and parcel of Krishna. We are not very different from him. We are just smaller. Just like, I am not as great as my father, but I am his part only. His feelings, my feelings will be the same. We are the same, but still we are distinct. So, and the material energy is inferior one, which is sprouted out of ignorance. So, my father, me, and my car, the family car. So, car belongs to us, but it is not superior. No car will not feel any affection for me. I may like the car, but car will never like me back. When I sit inside the car, I behave like car. I'm going fast, I'm turning left, right, like the car. But I remain who I am. When the car is gone, I'll still be there. So Krishna, we are parts and parcels of Krishna. So Krishna says, Mameva ansh jeev loke jeev bhut sanatana manah shashthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. So just like I'm sitting inside the car, I'm bound by what car does. I cannot go faster, I cannot turn wherever I want. No, wherever the car can take me, I can do that. So I am limited by that ability. So manah shashthani indriyani prakriti sthani. So this prakriti is that ignorance which is binding us. So okay, I am a man, I can see maybe 100 meters, I can jump maybe 1 meter, I can eat half a kilo. These are the limitations that Prakriti is putting upon me. An elephant cannot jump, but elephant can eat 100 kilos. A kangaroo can jump 3 meters. So all these are limitations created by Prakriti on the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free from this Prakriti, then he becomes as good as Krishna himself. Krishna accepts him as his own. Then he becomes like the gopis of Vrindavan. Then he experiences the full affection of the Lord and he can express that affection fully. But in this world, even our affection is suppressed by this material nature. Hmm. The energies of the the energy of the living entities is technically called kshetragya energy. This kshetragya shakti, although equal in quality with the Lord, becomes overpowered by material energy out of ignorance and thus suffers all sorts of material miseries. In other words, the living entities are located in the marginal energy between the superior spiritual and inferior material energy. And in proportion to the living being's contact with either the material or spiritual energies, the living entity is situated in proportionately higher and lower levels of existence. So, as simple as that. If a child is good, well behaved, he will experience full affection of his parents. But if a child is, imagine, delinquent, he has left his home, living on the streets, taking drugs and everything, that affection that parents feel for him is as it is, but the affection he feels for the parents is now covered over. It is dulled over by these substances. But somehow or the other, if he manages to give it up and come back to the parents, he will experience the same happiness that he experienced before he fell into this ignorance. So, if the living entity gives up this ignorance of Maya and goes back to Godhead, goes back to the shelter of Krishna, then he will experience full love of Krishna. Nothing more, nothing less. So if imagine if a delinquent, drug addict child goes back to parents and says, okay, I have given up all my bad habits. What do you think the parents will feel? Will they say, oh no, we can't take you, you're a drug addict, your other's brother is so nice? No, they will just say, okay, good, you gave up everything, now you are same as your brother. That love and affection they express for the child will be the same as for a good child. So you see, in the eyes of the Lord, there is no demigod, there is no demon, there is no human. These are just living entities covered by different layers of ignorance. So a demon may hate the Lord. There is no God. This is all nonsense. There is no God. There is just science, physics, quantum physics. There is no supreme being. What was that name? Stephen Hawking. So that is extreme demon. No God. Or there may be a pure devotee of the Lord, only worshipping Madhavendra Puri, Madhavacharya, Ramanujacharya, only worshipping the Lord. So it may be that. But for the Lord, both are on the same platform. You know, Name Dveshti, Name Priya. So I don't hate anyone. I don't love anyone specially. No one is especially dear or especially, inimical to me. Because Krishna can only see a delinquent and a good child. So this ignorance, when it is given up, it is this delinquency of this material world. When this delinquency is given up, when this ignorance is given up, the living entity becomes completely pure. Then he can directly take to the shelter of the Lord, and he will realize that the Lord loves him as it is. There is no difference. Simply because the living entity has come from Maya doesn't mean that the Lord will love him any less. No, it's the same. The Lord is beyond the inferior and marginal energies, as above mentioned, and his spiritual energy is manifested in three different phases as eternal existence, eternal bliss, and eternal knowledge. Sat, Chit, Anand. So, as far as eternal, or actually, this is Sat, Anand, Chit. As far as eternal existence is concerned, it is conducted by Sandhini potency. Similarly, the bliss and knowledge are conducted by Ladini and Samvit potencies, respectively. As the supreme energetic Lord, he is the supreme controller of spiritual, marginal, and material energies. And all these different types of energies are connected with the Lord in eternal devotional service. Now, this is a slightly complex topic. See, many times people say that, hey, you only talk about Krishna and Radha. What about Vishnu and Lakshmi? What about Shiva and Durga? They are all the same. Please try to understand. I don't know where it was, where Prabhupada said or one of the acharyas said that Srimati Radharani in an angry form is Durga Devi. See, Krishna's energy is manifested in different forms. It is just manifested in different forms. The way we look at the living entity, the way we look at this nature, the nature reciprocates. Krishna says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajamyaham. If we have a lusty desire to enjoy this world, as aham mameti, I and mine, then we will see Durga Devi and Lord Shiva. But if our desire is to know the absolute truth, just forget everything, I don't want, I am not this body, this is not me, then we will see Radha and Krishna. Everything is in between. Lord Shiva is the sum total of all living entities, and Durga Devi is the material energy personified. She's she's an expansion of the Sandhini potency of the Lord. So she's not like some other entity. Durga Devi is not like some external living entity who has become some lady. No, it is the same energy. If we give up all the lusty desires, we become completely pure, we will experience pure love of Godhead. We will realize that everything is one and the same. That's why Krishna says that Lord Shiva is not different from me. But we cannot consider them on the same platform at the same time because they're serving different functions. Therefore, in order to guide the living entity, both Durga Mata and Lord Shiva, they act as spiritual masters. There are so many recorded instances. Lord Shiva actually has his own sampradaya. He's Rudra Sampradaya. The modern day, this Vallabha Sampradaya. We have this in a lot of in Bombay area. This Vallabh Sampradaya is a part of Rudra Sampradaya, coming from Lord Shiva himself, where Shiva is only an acharya. He's not playing the role of a demigod there. He plays the pure role of an acharya and guides the living entities on the path of absolute truth. Shiva anyway does that, but even for lusty demonic entities, he eventually provides them the paths to go back to Godhead. So you see, when we say absolute truth, everything is included, external and internal. So there is no distinction in that sense. A pure living soul, a pure devotee of the Lord, makes no distinctions. He offers respects to the demigods also, to devatas. He offers them respects. But he does not desire anything from them. He respects them as expansions of the Supreme Lord himself. As his appointed officers, he respects them, but he does not pray for anything from them because he knows that he does not want anything from this material world. So I think that should reconcile all the differences between Krishna and Shiva and worship of devatas and pure devotion to Krishna. All right. Hmm. Oh, next paragraph is slightly bigger, so we have run out of our time. So thank you very much, everyone. Any questions or comments here?
Hare Krishna,
Okay.
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Then the Pranam. Yes, Prabhu.
So this, when we started the discussion, we was talking about the impersonal philosophy. So Prabhupada sometimes explains that concept of Gatakash and Patakash. So how is it related? Like I never able to
Ah.
understand what they say like that.
Oh, Ghata Akash, Patakash.
Yeah.
See, Prabhu. So what Mayavadi says that Ghata Akash, Patakash. So we are reflection of the absolute truth in this material world. When we realize that we are also absolute, we merge into the absolute. But you can interpret the same in a devotional way that when a child goes out of the house, he's not excluded from the family. So when the child comes back to his house, he becomes a part of the family again. When the living entity understands he's part of absolute truth, when he understands his spiritual nature, he goes back to Godhead. So Ghat Akash becomes Pat Akash. Yes, the living entity is a reflection of the Lord within the material nature, but he has his distinct identity. He does not become absolute truth. I mean, he doesn't merge and lose his identity, he remains. He merges into the absolute, but he also maintains his identity.
Yeah. Thank you, Praja. Got it.
Really.
So, so that maintaining the identity is understood by the example which you told about the boy going out of the house and coming back.
Hmm.
That individuality, maintaining of individuality, will not come into picture when that physical example of space inside the pot and outside the pot is taken, right?
Yeah, no, 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 no. That's a very incomplete analogy, really. See, think of this thing, Prabhu. What is the use of annihilating our existence? Like, we may be suffering in this material world, but we are also enjoying. We have our thoughts, we have our pleasures. Simply because, imagine this, Prabhu. Imagine you have cold right now. So, you have mucus in your lungs. It doesn't mean that because you have mucus, you should just, annihilate your lungs, just get a surgery and remove them. Will you do that? No. You will just say, take some medicine and cure them, treat these lungs. If we have disease in our leg, we don't just cut it out. We try to heal it. So this kind of Mayavad, expression that, we should just annihilate the existence because it is a source of pain, that is wrong. The soul is suffering because of misconception. The problem is misconception, not the soul itself. We don't have to annihilate the soul. The soul is completely all right. It is just in this illness of Maya. Once that is once that is removed, the soul will be Satchidanand, blissful, happy. The soul will not be suffering again. But because the soul is suffering, because the patient is sick, we are not going to shoot him dead. We will treat him. He'll become all right. So treat the soul, soul will become all right. Your Ghatakash will become Patakash, but it will not be annihilated.
Yeah, got it, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So any other questions or comments here? This is a slightly complex topic. Please bear with us. It'll soon be clarified. Like this is because we are introducing, the absolute truth, Param Satya. The very first verse of Bhagavatam starts Param Satyam Param Dhimahi. I meditate on that absolute truth. So it's in order, it's a kind of it's a requirement that we explain what is absolute truth. So one should not become fearful. One should not think, oh, Lord is some kind of raging Atlantic Ocean that, he'll absorb everything. No, absolute truth is not like that. Absolute truth is very beautiful. As Srila Prabhupada praised his spiritual master, the absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. The impersonal calamity thou hast moved. So one should not be afraid of the Lord. Rather, one should be afraid of one's ignorance. That, I am missing out on such beautiful things. Now imagine so many Matajis in this group. Suppose someone tells you that, there's a 90% sale going on in some very favorite mall of yours. And then someone tells you, oh, actually, you don't know, you're not going there. You will feel that urge to go. So it's a very cheap example I'm giving, but imagine, so much love, so much happiness is to be experienced in Krishna, and we are missing out simply because we are living in ignorance. So we are trying to understand who is Krishna, and as Srila Prabhupada promises, that anyone who diligently studies the Srimad Bhagavatam, by the end of this study, will become a pure devotee. So I leave you with that idea for tonight. So think it over and let me know how you feel about it. And then we'll continue the study of our Bhagavatam on Wednesday. Right? Any questions or comments? Okay, if not, we stop here today. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dhanapram.
Thank you.